Remember those carefree days of childhood where the magic still existed? When you didn't feel guilty about eating mountains of cereal with, we'll just say, questionable nutrition? Well, now you can have your cereal and you can eat it too. Because Magic Spoon has re-engineered that same great taste with grown-up ingredients for an absolutely game-changing Cereal 2.0. I adore cereal. I treasure cereal. It's one of my favorite things to eat, but I just can't justify eating mounds of sugar in every bowl. I don't need to worry about that with Magic Spoon, because it's high protein, low carb, and 0 grams of sugar in each serving. I know, it's hard to believe, but it also comes in 6 delicious flavors: frosted, fruity, cocoa, cinnamon, blueberry, and peanut butter. Plus, they've got limited edition flavors released throughout the year, like gingerbread or peaches and cream. So taste that magic of childhood all over again and get yourself some Magic Spoon cereal. Plus, take $5 off your order at checkout. All you got to do is insert the promo code Kingdom Team. That's right, Kingdom Team at checkout will get you $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com. That's magicspoon.com. Promo code Kingdom Team. Disney News Talk Live. What a day, what an evening, what an event that is rocking the world of the Disney fandom. I have so many text messages, emails, updates coming in from the Walt Disney Company and people within the organization who are just beside themselves when it comes to the news that Disney CEO Bob Chapek isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Have you heard? Our king, the master himself, Bob Chapek, is sticking around for at least 3 more years now due to the Disney Board of Directors' confidence in old Bobo. Pretty wild indeed. How's it going, everybody? Wade for the Kingdom Report back with you once again, covering all the latest Disney news, discussing all the things that we need to discuss, especially when it comes to sort of a seismic event like this, right? This is very shocking. And I know that some folks are like, "Oh, what's the big deal? We knew this was going to happen, right? He's made all this money for the company. He's weathered all these storms. He's a money man. He's good at it, right? It's fine." Well, guess what? He has damaged the brand. He has damaged the reputation in ways that I have not seen another CEO before him do. So at any rate, here we are now with the realization that Bob Chapek is going to be CEO for at least another 3 years. It is such a shocking and, like I said, sort of a seismic event within the Disney organization, mainly because I didn't think that there was any way after fumble, that this man has orchestrated, been a part of, contributed to, with the amount of issues that this guy has created in his short tenure, with the butting of heads that we have been told about via the trade papers between him and Bob Iger, him pushing out people like Tom Staggs, him pushing out people, firing Peter Rice, the person that was supposedly going to take his spot eventually, fired him recently, and got this, vow of confidence from the board all of a sudden. I'm not sure what's going on at the Disney Company anymore. I left it here not too long ago, mainly because I was concerned about the direction things were going, very uncomfortable with what I was seeing on the inside, troubled by leadership at a local level, as well as a regional and then corporate level. This isn't Walt Disney's Disney anymore. Let's just put it that way. And now we are facing the reality of this CEO sticking around a little while longer after firing Peter Rice, the person that was supposed to take his spot, apparently. With Peter Rice out of the way, certainly, I think that primes another person in the wings. And, another 3 years is an awfully long time for this guy to wait. But everybody's excited about the concept of Josh D'Amaro, current Disney Parks Consumer Products Chairman, becoming CEO eventually, much more charismatic, much more engaging. However, this guy is also tethered to a lot of what's going on right now, but just doesn't get any of the blame. So I'm well aware that Bob Chapek, our esteemed CEO, is someone who definitely is steering the ship. However, his top lieutenant, no doubt, is a part of a lot of decisions that are going on, even though Bob had his job just before the CEO gig, and no doubt put a lot of the things into effect that we are seeing today. We can't completely excuse Josh D'Amaro. My fear is that Josh eventually becomes CEO, and we realize that this guy was just as big of a dirtbag along the way. Now, I don't have that on any sort of, confirmed status, if you will. I don't have that as any sort of, very clear and concise information, mainly because the guy is charming as hell, and everybody loves him in the company. He seems to know how to really lather on the charm, the respect, the kindness that everybody wants to feel in an organization, that you want from a leader. So he's already light years ahead by, the standards of a CEO currently named Bob Chapek. At any rate, Bob sticking around here for the time being and getting that vow of confidence from our friends at the Disney board, specifically chairman of the board, Susan Arnold. Susan is someone that took the chairman spot sort of in the middle of Bob's tenure. Bob Chapek, that is. I know, we had two Bobs, or I had Chapek and Iger, so I don't want to confuse anybody. Susan took the spot of chairman after Bob Iger gave that up and retired. And a lot of folks thought that that was originally going to go to Bob Chapek, that Chapek was going to become chairman and CEO. However, the optics of Susan becoming chair in this environment where so much adversity, so many negative feelings, especially, were being centered around Bob Chapek. So many unfortunate feelings and sentiments surrounded Bob Chapek. Susan Arnold stepped up and said, "Yeah, I'm going to be the chairman." Was already on the board. I'm going to be the chairman. Voted in, became chairman, and it seemed that Susan was going to be that person that was going to help run interference. It seemed, when this happened, that Susan was going to be the individual that was going to keep Bob Chapek in check, mainly because we all saw it on the outside as a major signal that Bob isn't ready to be chairman yet, and therefore he is going to maybe, just run the day-to-day, but not be the end-all, be-all of decisions, and the chairman was still going to be in the way of mega decisions and potentially mega choices within Bob Chapek's realm. And the chairman was going to occasionally step in and say, no, let's limit that, or no, maybe we should reconsider, or potentially we should look at something else. However, Susan is the one that has been putting out all the public statements on behalf of the board saying Bob Chapek is a hell of a guy. Bob Chapek is a wonderful man. This CEO is fantastic, and through his leadership, we have seen an incredible 3 years, and can you believe the business that we are doing when it comes to post-pandemic numbers? And look, our parks are packed, and spending is up, and everything's great. Of course, if you look at the Disney stock, that tells a different story. Of course, if you look at things like Disney Plus subscribers finally leveling off, that's a different story. Not saying they haven't had great success, they certainly have. And I'm not somebody that bashes the Disney organization. I'm not some bitter former senior leader. I'm not some angry person. In fact, I treasured my time within the organization. I absolutely felt like it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. However, there are a lot of problems there. There are a lot of problems within. And yeah, it goes all the way down to the levels of the Disneyland Resort, a place that I would hope would not be subjected to such crap. But that's what we experience. I witnessed it firsthand. However, Bob Chapek, being our CEO for the next 3 years at this point, he's someone that already has the masses against him, both guest side and on the side of the employees. Employees are furious with this guy. He has managed to divide the consumer base as well as his employee base. And on top of that, he's managed to drive an entire political catastrophe within the last year. He's managed to drive this to new heights. He has created things that have led to the revocation of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, something Walt Disney himself worked with the government of Florida to make happen. He lost it. This was something in particular I didn't think Bob Chapek was going to be able to recover from. I thought, there it is. That's the nail in the coffin. That's it. He's done. There's no way he can recover from this one. Not to mention the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit. Not to mention the way he has publicly sort of humiliated talent and employees. And don't forget, Destination D23, when it last met in Orlando, he bowed out last minute. Was like, oh, I can't present. Yeah, no, I've got an event the night before in California. Just can't make it out there in time. Don't tell me this guy doesn't have a private jet. Don't tell me this guy isn't capable of flying 4 hours to get to the event. He bowed out because he's terrified of meeting the consumer face to face. If he doesn't have an entourage around him, which has been the case every step of the way. If he does not have an entourage, a security team, if he does not have a detail with him to go places, he is not looking forward to meeting anyone. Anybody that lines his pockets, I think he's concerned about meeting, because he knows what he's done. He knows he's the most unpopular CEO in Disney history. More unpopular than Michael Eisner in his final years, and that was pretty damn dark. More more hated, although I guess maybe he wasn't hated in the end. Ron Miller as CEO, Walt's son-in-law. I don't think he was necessarily hated. I think he was much beloved, but he brought the company to the brink of bankruptcy and ruin, and the organization was about to be bought and sold under him because he didn't really know what he was doing. That, I guess you can claim ignorance. But over the course of time, we have seen very charismatic, very engaging CEOs, leaders that have been the face of the company that you don't hate to look at, you don't hate to hear from. In fact, when Bob Iger spoke, as much as, he brought that certainly created baggage, right? Put the company in a lot of debt, something that doesn't really get talked about. Bob Iger is somebody that, bought multiple stores of IP, all this intellectual property to keep Disney going in the near future, keep Disney and the creative wheelhouse turning. So now Bob Chapek has to deal with all the debt and certainly get everything paid off and taken care of. But Bob Iger was one of those guys that when he spoke, you listened because he didn't speak very much. He was soft-spoken. And you felt like he was quite the visionary when you did listen to him because you never heard from him. So when he spoke, you were like, whoa, what's he mentioning here? Where are we going? What's he saying? Michael Eisner, especially when Frank Wells was around, when Frank Wells was the president, Michael Eisner was CEO. Oh my gosh. Michael Eisner was like a second coming of Walt Disney in a creative way. Not saying he was like Walt Disney, but he was the second coming of the creative juices of Walt Disney, motivated, excited. And under him and Frank Wells, we had the Disney decade of the 90s. They brought Disney back from the brink and created a powerhouse that became a household name all over again. Now, his demise in the end, like I said, very dark, very sad. An unfortunate way for him to have gone out after being sort of Herculean in his approach through so much of the first 5-8 years. Things looked so good. But another guy that was like the face of the company that you saw all over the place, and you didn't hate, maybe towards the end you did, but you didn't despise the guy, you didn't dislike the guy, you didn't feel contempt for the man. There are very few people that openly say, "Oh, Bob Chapek is just such a wonderful fellow. We just love him so much. Oh, he's so great. What a businessman. Oh, he's such a great, charismatic, functioning individual that everybody appreciates and respects." You don't hear this about him from anybody. And all the trade papers, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, they have chronicled Chapek's rise. And while they can't get confirmations from anybody involved because the industry is the industry, and you gotta be careful when it comes to these heights, right? This level. People like your Tom Staggs, your Jay Rizzulos, people like your Peter Rice, not saying a word on the way out. Peter Rice fired, Tom Staggs resigns, supposed to be the heir apparent to Bob Iger, gone. Hollywood Reporter indicating that Bob Chapek had a lot to do with that his office sabotaged Tom Staggs. Wild to think that not only did Bob Chapek make it to the mountaintop, he's going to stand there for the next 3 years, and who knows what's next. We're going to get more into this story here in just a bit. By the way, great to have you with us, an impromptu version of Disney News Talk Live. Wonderful, by the way, to have you as part of the evening edition. We don't typically do these at night. Let us know, by the way, in the comments if you are watching live. Jump into live chat, whether you are on YouTube or watching us on Facebook. We will see those comments. Send them on over to us. Do you prefer these evening live streams? Would you prefer an evening live stream versus a dayside live stream? Just, ballparking it, trying to figure out whether or not it works better for you. Certainly, we want to do our best to provide you with the content that is convenient for you. Of course, we know that the majority of you watch everything on demand afterwards. So we certainly see that in the analytics, and we certainly see that in the numbers. However, if you are somebody that would like to see evening edition live streams incorporated with our dayside edition live streams, please let us know. We'll start doing some more evening edition things. Again, very impromptu Disney News Talk Live based on all of the activity that we have seen today from the Disney Board of Directors when it comes to Bob Chapek being renewed for 3 years. 3-year contract underway for Bob Chapek as he is renewed as the Disney CEO. Also tonight, we are going to be talking about Finding Nemo, the submarine voyage returning to Disneyland, as well as the Brightline Train that was scheduled to run on into Disney Springs, right? It wasn't going to hit Disney Springs, of course. When I say run in, I mean it's supposed to stop at Disney Springs from Orlando International Airport. That is not happening anymore. We're going to cover the details for you and explain exactly what's going on. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique coming back coast to coast. Walt Disney World, the Disneyland, on its way back. And people are getting violent out there when it comes to the stress of a Walt Disney World vacation. We're going to cover that for you too. Again, so great to have you with us on Disney News Talk Live. Sound off in that live chat. Let us know how you're feeling about Bob Chapek becoming CEO once again for the next 3 years. It didn't lose the title, just continuing that sucker. So certainly something that we are going to be talking about in depth tonight. Disney Boy says, Disney legend Marty Sklar always said they try to meet the needs of people at Imagineers. I think you mean people and Imagineers? People and Imagineering? Clarify what you mean there. Mike says, Josh is just as guilty as Chapek. Yeah, here just a second ago, mentioning Josh D'Amaro, Disney Parks chairman, certainly involved in the day-to-day and no doubt connected to so many of the decisions that we have seen in the last 2 years in particular. He always gets a pass, right? And we talk about it all the time. He always seems to get a pass because he's just so much more engaging. And I guess, respect and kindness go a long way in excusing some behavior. And it's always put on the shoulders of Bob Chapek. But yeah, like I said, I worry about, Josh D'Amaro, and then, say this guy eventually becomes CEO and we learn he's a potential dirtbag. That's going to crush everybody because they look at Josh, and I say they as in, the Disney Parks fandom, they look at Josh as like a second coming of, a Walt Disney to a certain degree. So I know that there's real anticipation Josh is going to help change everything if he, finally gets into that C-suite and, eventually becomes the foremost CEO executive. Absolutely. My goodness. Jamie says, I will not go back to Disney until Chapek is gone, period. I've heard that a lot recently, and now knowing that he will be making the decisions from here on out, oh boy, here on out, next 3 years, not going anywhere anytime soon. Behind the Park says, time to boycott Disneyland. Here's the thing, I'm never for boycotting anything because I don't necessarily think that it works. There's too many variables in play anymore when it comes to any sort of product or experience that you might be partaking in and contributing to. So I don't know that it works. However, if that's something that people want to try and do, numbers are very high. Numbers are, in terms of capacity, in terms of demand, numbers are very high. Who knows what's going to happen with the Magic Key Annual Pass coming up, by the way. They have been mum on that, silent on that now. And we are, less than a month away, a month and some change now, away from the renewal of the annual pass, the Magic Key Pass over at Disneyland, and still nothing clear about what's going to happen in terms of renewals. If there's going to be Magic Keys moving forward, not clear at all. But will they miss you if you are going to boycott Disneyland? Will they miss you? They seem to think that spending is through the roof, capacity is exactly where they want it. Interesting question, right? Will they miss you? Chris Davis says, since we're in a recession, I think Disney is just letting him ride it out rather than make the change in the middle of it. And, that's a good point, Chris. I think that, Peter Rice, who he just fired, was absolutely the person in the bullpen to take his spot. And I think that it's fascinating that right upon firing Peter Rice, that the Disney board of directors came out and were like, hey, no, don't you worry. You've got our confidence, Bob Chapek. So I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that is something that they were even, considering in terms of like letting Chapek stick around and letting him ride it out, instead of changing in the middle of a, recession and things are not good right now, right? Inflation is through the roof and economically things are struggling all of a sudden and we're starting to see more of these problems irk up. He certainly took over right before the pandemic hit and all hell broke loose worldwide. So maybe they're, you're right. Maybe they are sticking with him just because it's easier than switching things up right now. However, when it comes down to business results, you want the person that's going to, as a board of directors, make the best possible business decisions, business choices, business case for your organization. And as of right now, the reputation alone of Disney is just being put through the ringer, hammered, mud dripping off the face of Disney right now. 85% of it attributed to the decisions, actions, and inaction of Disney CEO Bob Chapek. So, I don't know, Chris. Good point. Like I said, I just feel like the board of directors would probably be unafraid to pull the rug out from under Bob Chapek and say, you know what? You have fumbled the ball too many times in a short amount of time. Bruh, it is time for you to go. Keep the comments coming. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you are thinking about Bob Chapek being CEO renewed for another 3 years. Budo Dave says, wow, Wade is on fire tonight. I have a lot of pent-up thoughts just about the organization as a whole and kind of where things have been going for a while. And now seeing the board of directors so tone deaf in their backing of this guy for another 3 years when the organization is going through perhaps irreversible damage. That's what I'm concerned about. The company is going through so much damage and PR nightmare scenarios and situations at the moment, so much of which is attributed to him, as I mentioned. It is hard to understand how this board of directors justified that this guy is going to be best for business. There's no one else. After all the things that have happened, there isn't another person in the executive team that they have trust in. And I know he hasn't been there for very long, but again, that's part of the problem, right? Less than 3 years, and look at what he's done. Look at the venom that the consumer base has for this guy. Look at the frustration. He has driven employees away based on his actions, based on his inactions. He has driven a wedge in the consumer base and in the employee base. Just a few months ago, employees were on Zoom calls, publicly calling for, in front of their leadership teams, publicly calling for his resignation, telling their executives on company Zoom calls he needs to resign. They do not have faith in him anymore. Like I said at the top of the program, so many messages, so many different communications today from employees at the Disney company, everyone from senior leadership on down to entry level that are fired up about this as well, that are very disappointed in the board of directors, that are many of which, by the way, making decisions about how they are going to leave, how they are going to depart. Some people with 15, 20, 25 years of seniority or more now contemplating departing the organization. All because of this decision. Miss Jones saying, evening is a nice change. So when I asked you all, when it comes to whether or not you are interested in us having a few more evening live streams, since we typically do everything more dayside, more morning into the beginning of midday, would you prefer more evening edition live streams? We will do them for you. We just need to know that that's something that you'd be interested in, and we will certainly be throwing those out there for you. D. McGee saying, I am just happy to be here. We are just happy to have you here, D. Absolutely. Miss Jones also saying, unbelievable about Bob's extension. You're telling me. You are telling me. Shelly Smith saying, the heartbeat is different in the park. Shelly, I know. This is being echoed over and over again in the messages that I've been receiving throughout the day from people that are still with the organization and who have been shaken by the realization that this isn't a temporary nightmare, that this will be a long, drawn-out nightmare for the next couple years, because things have not gotten better under his tenure. They've only gotten worse. And that is a quote from somebody in senior management who has been contemplating now for about the last 6 months or so how they can best support their family by leaving the company and trying to do it in a wise way. I think it's important to remember, by the way, that the majority of cast members, the folks that like to... The folks that appreciate the parks the most tend to be the cast members, right? A huge segment of the cast member population, and certainly there are plenty of people that just go there to get a check, right? They punch a clock, they're there for a check, and off they go. There is a great deal of cast members that go to work at Disney, whether they work at the studios, whether they are part of Imagineering, consumer products, the parks themselves. They go there because of what Disney has represented. They go there to represent what Disney represents, to be a part and contribute to the magic. Contribute to the one thing that up until just the last year, most people could agree on. That this place was magical, that this place was a wonderful retreat, right? A wonderful brand that you could believe and trust in. Do you feel a lot of trust in the Disney product anymore? Do you have faith that the Disney product is going to be stellar, great, magical moving forward? The loss of all of that is what I'm talking about when I say there is a seismic shift going on. And now, to have this happen, to have the board of directors say, we understand that all of these mistakes have occurred in the last 2.5 years. We understand that this guy has dropped the ball on so many occasions and put us through PR nightmare after PR nightmare, drug our image through the mud, which used to be the most important thing to us. And, we're just going to turn a blind eye to that and go, we got your back, buddy. Here's some more money, because we trust you have our best interest in mind. How out of touch can a board of directors be? Meanwhile, all the cast members involved at all levels are left holding every ounce of this, right? They're the ones that really put these things together. They're the ones that really create this magic that we're so infatuated by, that we as a consumer base have come to love. And they're also the ones that take the brunt of the frustration from the consumer base. They're the ones that get targeted because they're the front line, not him. It's not fair. It isn't fair to these cast members. It's not fair to these individuals that give so much of their life to something that they believe in. And yeah, Disney is kind of like a religion to some people. There is such a belief in the good that Disney has done. More people could agree on Disney than most major religions, right? That's incredible when you think about it. However, I don't know that that's the case anymore. I think that so many people have tuned out and said, nope, not for me, I'm done. This brand that, a single dreamer, one of the greatest dreamers we've ever known, created and brought to life, it has been perhaps irreversibly damaged. And now the board of directors rubber stamps another 3 years of that damage. Another 3 years of approval of what we've been through. So cool. So cool of them. My goodness. Anna says, watching here on YouTube, the evening live streams are nice. Thank you, Anna. It's great to hear that. We will definitely take note and continue to watch our chats and continue to hear from you as to what you think. Evening live streams, are those for you? Would love to hear whether or not that would be something you'd like to see more of. And Everez says, evening would be best. Very good. Thank you for that. Disney Boy saying boycott isn't fair to the average cast member. I agree. That's why I say, I don't think boycotts are really something that, number one, make a true difference. But number two, there are so many variables. This is one of the major ones. It's not fair to average cast members. You're absolutely right. So trying to hurt the product, trying to show them that you're not going to show up, you're not going to partake in what they have to offer. Yeah, it is going to hurt the cast members down the line. You're absolutely right. Disney Boy also saying Rice was beloved by the employees. Yeah, Peter Rice was beloved by the employees, which is why we covered this in the last Disney News Talk Live that we did. Absolutely, the love was felt at a maximum level with this guy. So for him to be fired, kicked out the door by Chapek, led to some of the lowest morale insiders have ever seen. Kevin saying, unbelievable, the Disney board is as corrupt as Chapek. Fasten your seatbelts. This will be a turbulent ride for fans of Disney products. Kevin, I don't know what the board is thinking. I'm very disappointed, like I said, and I just don't know where things are going at this point. To rubber stamp approval of the damage and say, yeah, 3 more years, let's do that. What? So you tell us, has the board made the right decision in renewing Bob Chapek's contract as CEO? If you have not sounded off, please do so. We want to hear from you. We are going to get to other stories here tonight. However, this is leading our coverage this evening of Bob Chapek keeping his seat as CEO and getting something renewed for the next 3 years. Now, boy, if he was holding back, right? if he at any point was holding back and now feels like he can hit the accelerator, imagine what we're going to see if this was what was being him held back for the last 2.5 years. At any rate, lots to talk about here tonight. Like I said, we'll get to more stories here in just a bit. The Brightline Train not going to Disney Springs after all. Finding Nemo coming back to Disneyland. A bit of stress when it comes to a Walt Disney World vacation. That leads to a physical reaction, and we are certainly going to talk about that Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique becoming a part of our world once again, which is great. However, before we get to that, let me share with you the full story of Bob Chapek and the renewal of his contract. Take a listen as we dive into the details. It has happened. Disney CEO Bob Chapek has received a new long-term contract with the Walt Disney Company. Deadline reports that the board has met this week, and directors voted unanimously to replace his current deal, which expires in February 2023 with a new 3-year agreement starting July the 1st. Quote, Disney was dealt a tough hand by the pandemic, yet with Bob at the helm, our businesses from parks to streaming not only weathered the storm, but emerged in a position of strength, said Susan Arnold, the chairman of the board. Adding, in this important time of growth and transformation, the board is committed to keeping Disney on the successful path it is on today, and Bob's leadership is key to achieving that goal. Bob is the right leader at the right time for the Walt Disney Company, and the board has full confidence in him and his leadership team. Close quote. Chapek has been having a rough ride as CEO, and some wondered whether a longer-term future for him atop the media giant was in the cards. Board Chairman Susan Arnold came out in support of Chapek this month after an executive shuffle that included the firing of content chief Peter Rice. Quote, leading this great company is the honor of a lifetime, and I am grateful to the board for their support, Chapek said, adding, I started at Disney almost 30 years ago, and today I have the privilege of leading one of the world's greatest, most dynamic companies, bringing joy to millions around the world. I am thrilled to work alongside the incredible storytellers, employees, and cast members who make magic every day. Close quote. Chapek, age 63, was named CEO in February 2020 just as COVID shuttered the global economy. He took the reins from Bob Iger in what was a rocky transition, as the former chief remained on to oversee Disney's creative businesses before exiting. Prior to becoming CEO, Chapek headed Disney Parks Experiences and Products. He ran Disney Consumer Products and served as president of distribution for the Walt Disney Studios and president of Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment. Chapek's promotion to the top job was a surprise to Hollywood and Wall Street. He was not at all well known to either. Since then, he had taken a few reputational hits, including a high-profile legal scuffle with Scarlett Johansson, and from perceived waffling around Florida's parental rights and education bill. Disney became Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' punching bag and lost a special economic zone in the state after Chapek spoke out at the annual meeting in March, but not before alienating many employees by his public silence. The contract announced today puts to rest, at least for now, the issue of his ongoing tenure at Disney. In a SEC filing, the company said the new contract calls for Chapek to be granted a long-term incentive award with a target value of not less than $20 million annually. Also, the proportion of his long-term incentive award, comprised of performance-based restricted stock units, will be increased to 60%. It noted the awards don't guarantee any minimum amount of compensation since they're based on achieving certain metrics or stock price. The remaining details of his new contract, including base salary, still are being worked out. Once again, our thanks to Deadline for that story. So there you have it, all the details when it comes to the contract renewal for Bob Chapek, sticking around for another 3 years, not going anywhere anytime soon. Coincidentally, this past week on Kingdom Report Live, our studio broadcast, we talked about, we didn't know this was coming necessarily, but we did talk about how we think Bob Chapek is doing right now. Just in terms of, he's got less than a year left on his current contract. How's he been doing? Like what's been the MO, and what's our impression of exactly how this guy has carried, the organization that we all up until recently have really adored, really loved. And our team definitely sounded off and shared how they felt. Here's Tyler Crouch, our theme park analyst here at the Kingdom Report, on exactly how he feels Bob Chapek has been doing.
Well, obviously the optics of the whole situation are bad. He's in that front. He's definitely getting an F, for failure. I think that he just has such little personality on top of that, and just is such a poor public speaker that it's just hard to get behind the guy. And I feel like kind of one of the things that I guess has been a staple of Disney is that we've had these, big bombastic kind of CEOs over the years. I mean, it's, you gotta follow up Walt Disney, I mean, that man is impossible to beat, but, these people need to try hard to have a public face that, makes people feel good about the company. And I think on that front, he's totally failing. And the whole thing where they've delayed the move to Florida now for the Imagineers is just inexcusable. And I'm not saying that was all I'm not. Who knows if that was all his idea? I'm sure he had a lot to do with it, but still, they're trying to save money for themselves, and they're just pooping on their cast members. Like let's be real. So, he's not doing a great job from my perspective. Now, who's to say that maybe he's saving the company a lot of money, and that they maybe love him for that on the inside, but from my perspective, I don't even know what to say about the guy anymore because I've just trashed him so much, and I just feel like he deserves it. Like, I don't know what else to say. So that's how I feel about Bob Chapek.
Not much love lost when it comes to how Tyler feels regarding Bob Chapek and his performance as of late. And you sounded off too on our YouTube community page. We asked you, how do you think Bob Chapek is doing? Here are just some of your comments that we also ran for you here on Kano Report Live this past week. Says, I am sure glad I don't have any Disney stock right now. That's a wrap. Says, Disney, listen to the people. From Jeanette's View says, to be fair, I think many businesses have gone downhill since the pandemic. Things are different and not in a good way. I am for Mark says prices, lightning lanes, wait times, getting rid of Epcot's original theme are all problems in my opinion. I don't have a problem with Disney being inclusive and socially aware, but the way they've done it seems cheap and not genuine. I wish Disney would experiment more with their art and the parks. T-Peg Explores says, my viewpoint is being less favorable has nothing to do with social justice issues and everything to do with the price gouging, dilution of theme with Epcot and the disaster that is Genie Lightning Lanes. Joseph says, they saved me a lot of money in the last few years. I used to love going to the parks at least once a year for almost 40 years, and now I don't even care. I haven't been since 2019 and have no future visits planned, but I did go to Universal last year, and it was great. Dana says, Chapek, in my opinion, has ruined the Disney name and brand overall, starting with the Black Widow lawsuit and with Florida. Stay out of politics. Prices on things are just ridiculous. Bob Iger wouldn't have allowed any of this to have happened. Chapek needs to be fired sooner than later. Get Tom Staggs or Peter Rice in there as CEO. As we all remember, Tom Staggs, the former chief operating officer and former CFO that the Hollywood Reporter suggests was pushed out by Bob Chapek, and then, of course, Peter Rice, who he just fired as head of content, that was seen as his successor. Thanks for that, Wade. God. Great job, right? Stellar job. Totally kidding. All right, so there are some of your comments when it comes to how Bob Chapek is doing. Katrina Manzone, our travel agent on retainer, is somebody who also shared her thoughts on how she thinks Bob Chapek is doing. Let's take a listen to that.
You guys give him such a hard time. I think he's doing a great job.
Stellar?
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Oh my God. I got you guys. No, he's doing a horrible job. Listen, as he's doing great to make money he's a good money maker, right? So he takes away pleasure, happiness, everything. He's like a dementor. He sucks all the happiness out of everybody because he's trying to capture the souls of people. So he's taking everybody's money, and that's how he's like making profit for people. But he's doing a really poor job of listening to people, and he's doing a really poor job of being a good CEO to give back to his employees. He has one thing in mind, and that's the green, and that's a horrible thing to think about and putting that forward. I get, as a business, you need to make profit and you need to like think of how you can make money, but taking away things and charging for them now, and then also making your employees like little puppets and expendable items are like a horrible way to run a business. Because when a CEO says like, you're my family, and make like, that's, you want to feel that. And I sadly don't think he doesn't care about that. And it's horrible because when, Walt was, head, he thought of everybody as family. And he tried to take care of everybody, I think, in like the best way he could. And and then like when every CEO, like they've always tried to like, at least, yes, money's in the forefront, like that. You got to make profit. I get it. But you have to like also think of something that is equally pleasurable to the people that are having to pay for it. And right now with Lightning Lane, you pay extra, and it's just like, are you even getting a better deal? Because it's, it's just, I don't think you're really getting a better deal than you did like with the 3 fast passes and you got included with your resort stay and whatnot. So sadly, no, I think he's a horrible CEO. He's doing a bad.
Katrina Manzoni with her thoughts on how Bob Chapek has been doing as of late. Melissa chimes in saying that I think after this, Paycheck will bow out of D23 again. Here's the thing. The D23 event that happened in Florida, it's a much smaller version of it's the Destination D23 event. So it's a much smaller version of the D23 sort of, I guess, catalog of events, if you will. The D23 Expo is like the company-wide mothership of events. And the thing is I don't know that he can justify in any way not being there, since this is the entire organization is expected to show up and put on the best show. If he doesn't show up to the D23 Expo in, what is it, a month and a half, 2 months here? If he misses the D23 Expo, that is going to be so telling of him ducking the consumer base entirely. That is going to be so telling of how just in fear this guy must be of the consumer base. However, as I mentioned in one of the clips here from the Kingdom Report live show, I just cannot imagine that he's going to have a favorable response taking the stage for any of the events at D23, no matter what it is, whether it's for studios, animation, television, Marvel presentations, parks, you name it, consumer products. If he shows up and goes on stage, whether he's presenting or not, if he just shows up and sits on stage and applauds, I don't think there's going to be a very good reaction, especially after this. I think we are going to see a lot of that. So a lot of that frustration, a lot of that come pouring out. So at any rate, definitely something we will keep our eye on as we get closer to D23. If he suddenly has to go to the other side of the world, maybe he has to go to Shanghai Disneyland or something on that day, I'm sure those coincidences will just crop up again. Maybe you're right, Melissa. Mike says, I think Disney may filter out who's attending during the Bob talk at D23 like they do with any pressers for Apple and big tech companies. Yeah, it might be, that's a great point. It might just become one of those situations where the people allowed into the venue for his talk are going to be screened and are going to be, corporate donors. They're gonna be elite members of his society. They're gonna be individuals that the company definitely is able to keep in check and knows won't be a threat to him as he presents something or talks on stage. It's something that we bring up here on this show every once in a while, and that is his more recent interactions in public that were caught on tape with the cast member base at Disneyland for the kickoff of the Main Street Electrical Parade returning to Disneyland. There was a cast member preview where it was nothing but cast members at the event, and Bob showed up walking down the parade route to sort of see how things were going. He had his entourage with him. We have it on good authority that Josh D'Amaro, the Disney Parks chairman, had no entourage and had people lining up left and right to take photos with him. However, Bob had a we'll just call it gaggle of yes men and leadership around him that kept everybody at a distance and made sure that he didn't have to necessarily talk to anybody he didn't want to. But he knew, given all the bad PR and all of the crap that the company has been through in recent months, that it was really important for him to be there, really significant for him to show face. And let's just say he tried.
Bob, so how are you doing?
Hello, hello. Hi, nice to meet you. Hi. How are you? Good, thank you. How are you?
right, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Captain Charisma, baby. Captain Charisma. That's our Bob Chapek, ladies and gentlemen. He is someone that just oozes enthusiasm and thrill to be meeting his minions, that's for sure. And have you ever seen anybody post for a photo quite like that? I mean, he's just so zany. He's so relatable. He really is. He's just a terrific guy. At any rate, wanted to share with you before we move on from the subject, and certainly continue to comment and share your thoughts. By the way, if you haven't done so already, we do encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our Disney news updates, you don't miss any of our News Talk Lives, our live streams, Can You Report Live, or any of our content that we put out throughout the week. And if you haven't done so already, also, a thumbs up means an awful lot. It also helps the video perform, and more people are able to see it. More people are aware of the Kingdom Report that way. So if you haven't done so, please hit that thumbs up button. It means so much, and we do appreciate everybody taking the time to not just be here if you are here live and commenting, but if you are watching after the fact, please continue to sound off. Share your thoughts. Group therapy, that's what this is all about. Coming together after the shock of the day that Bob Chapek will remain CEO for at least another 3 years. Share your thoughts in our comment section. Hit that thumbs up button and let us know how you are feeling. And finally, your comments to round things out, exactly how you are taking Bob Chapek in terms of his tenure and how he's been performing. Here it is from this past week.
Lone Knight says, it really doesn't matter for all the whining and crying people are still buying tickets and extras like Genie Plus and still supporting the brand. It has to be more than just dips and shares. It has to be no one showing up to the parks. Daniel says, in all honesty, I look at the situation with Bob Chapek like a coach on a losing football team. At the end of the season, they fire him. Looking at the stock price and the whole political situation in Florida that, in my opinion, he totally mishandled, causing anger from the government and the employees. When the next earnings call comes out, he will have no way to explain away the failures that have stacked up under his reign as CEO. The board will fire him quicker than your Mickey ears can hit the ground. The way I see it, the board of directors are just giving him enough rope, and he's done. Andrew says, the way I see it, and this is me being idealistic, is to step into Walt Disney's shoes is a massive job, a job that would be crushing to most people. People like Walt Disney, Gene Roddenberry, Stan Lee, Bob Iger, and Steve Jobs don't come along very often, and to come after them is an impossible job, not to mention in a political climate like we are in now. No matter what you do, it's either not enough or wrong altogether. Kathy says, there is no guest experience or concern for the guest and their time in the parks. Chapek is concerned only about the bottom line, and that's money. Chapek sucks, and I'll be glad when he's gone. And Mitchell says, I think Chapek is like the cancer that is multiplying and spreading pain, suffering, and misery all over the Walt Disney Company.
Oh my gosh.
Certainly.
So your comments, you're sounding off as to how you feel Bob Chapek has been doing. Very few positive, glowing remarks, that's for sure. And so now you've heard from a round of individuals as well as many of our viewers as to just how they are feeling when it comes to this guy. And yeah, like I said, not positive, and very few people having anything really nice to say about the man. Don't know too many CEOs that are in this type of a position where the public outcry and disdain is at such a fever pitch. Hey, in other news, we're not just going to dwell on Bob Chapek as we have been doing for the last hour, if you can believe that. Also, we have some positive news. Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage coming back to us at Disneyland Park this month. Can you believe it? Yep, after blowing through all the deadlines of coming back, we've been covering for you in our Disneyland updates. Every time we were told, hey, don't you worry, the end of 2021. Hey, don't you worry, winter 2022. Hey, don't you worry, spring. Well, guess what? Summertime's here, and now we're going to be getting our Nemo attraction back. Here's the story. Following comes to us from the Orange County Register. They write that a 7-armed octopus from Finding Dory with camouflaging capabilities who just wants some peace and quiet is about to become visible to thousands of Disneyland visitors and a flock of squawking seagulls after hiding beneath a tarp in the Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage lagoon. Hank the Septopus from Finding Dory will join the cast of amphibious creatures in the Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage attraction at Disneyland, according to Walt Disney Imagineering. Disneyland will reopen the Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage attraction on July 25th, according to the Disney Parks blog. Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage has remained closed since the Anaheim theme park reopened in April 2021 after a year-long pandemic closure, while Imagineering and Disneyland Cruise refurbished the classic 1959 attraction. Saying, quote, anytime we take an attraction down for a longer period of time, and this has been a long one for Nemo, it's always great to bring it back with new magic, especially for a franchise like Finding Nemo. That came from Imagineering art director Michael Dvorak, as he said that in an online video interview. Imagineering plussed up the vulnerable attraction by extending some rock work above the waterline to give the Hank static figure a place to hang out. The Finding Dory octopus will be visible from Matterhorn Way between the bobsled roller coaster and the submarine lagoon. Quote, when we were brainstorming the project with the Pixar team, there was a real interest in saying, hey, what can we do to bring a Finding Dory character into the story? The Pixar, Imagineering, and Disneyland team settled on the bright orange-red octopus who lost his sense of humor along with one of his tentacles. In Finding Dory, Hank is an escape artist with camouflaging abilities and a penchant for solitude. The septopus, or seven-tentacled octopus, is voiced by Modern Family actor Ed O'Neill, better known as Al Bundy. Yes, that's right. Quote, Hank is a bit of a curmudgeon, Dvorak said. He's not always necessarily pleased with what's going on in the world around him. He's got strong opinions, close quote. Hank's rock outcropping will be a stone's throw from the Finding Nemo seagulls that endlessly squawk, mine, mine, from atop a red buoy to the delight of Disneyland visitors. They say Hank is just there to enjoy the day and get a little sun on the rock, but those seagulls aren't going to let that happen, so Hank is casting some pretty harsh side-eye in that direction. The original Submarine Voyage opened in 1959, along with Matterhorn bobsleds and the Disneyland monorail. The Disneyland ride beneath the ocean depths closed in 1998 amid an uncertain future for the undersea attraction. Several replacement thematic ideas were considered for the ride based on Disney's 1989 Little Mermaid, 2001's Atlantis, and 2002's Treasure Planet, but none of them made the leap from silver screen to theme park. Then, in 2007, Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage opened at Disneyland after nearly a decade of inactivity in the lagoon. A 2014 refurbishment of the popular Nemo attraction drained the 6.3 million gallon sub-lagoon for months. After the last refurbishment, Pixar released the Finding Dory sequel in 2016 that continued the aquatic story of the original 2003 Finding Nemo. Again, our many thanks to the Orange County Register for updating us on the Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage. Who's excited to see Finding Nemo back in action later this month? I think it'll be wonderful to have, especially that ride capacity back after so long of having Finding Nemo offline, as well as Pirates of the Caribbean, reopening this coming Friday. Oh my gosh, you know what? Capacity finally is going to be opened up again inside the park. We're going to finally have an opportunity to stuff more people on rides and out of the walkways and in line for everything else, that's for sure. Sandra saying, so sad in connection with the Bob Chapek CEO ship heading on into 3 more years. Sandra, I know. Very disappointing, to say the least, that you can fumble the ball so much and still keep your job. I know. Pretty wild. Hello there saying, Disney is just losing from every side. Their business consumer decisions are hated by all. Their political decisions are alienating every side of the aisle. No one likes the Chapek. Very few people like the Chapek. And I'll tell you, there's a company executive who recently spoke to a trade publication on anonymity and mentioned that there is so much in terms of disdain towards Bob Chapek within the organization and real frustration amongst executives that work with him over how the entire Florida situation was handled and how that just alienated and drove the consumer base apart politically too. So now this company, this brand that has long been a brand that has, basically welcomed everybody and hasn't necessarily had any sort of, any sort of concern for anybody's beliefs in particular, right? It was just this utopian area that allowed all backgrounds, all belief structures, all political affiliations to come and have fun. They got they got to the point where they were saying, these insiders, oh my God, he managed to piss off both sides of the aisle, the government in the process, and then came back and ruined all of the goodwill that was built up by Bob Iger with the employee base. He set fire to the whole thing. How does that happen? Goodness. Thank you. Hello there, for sharing your thoughts. And other great news, my friends, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique coming back to us. Did you hear? Yep. So not just Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage, but we are going to be seeing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique returning to Disneyland and Walt Disney World a little later this summer. Blog Mickey saying that Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique will soon welcome young guests once again for royal head-to-toe transformations to both Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Park at Disneyland Resort on August the 25th, with a royal proclamation from Disney saying, "Now listen, my dears, to all that we say, for a special announcement is happening today. The return of some magic, isn't it grand, for all little children throughout the land? Oh, goodness me, the anticipation's been great, but worry no more, for we know the date. The apprentices will soon be practicing their skills for those magical transformations and joy they instill. And the finishing touches are looking so nice, all with the help of some very talented mice. So there is just one last thing we must do. It's a wave of a wand. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo." I mean, should I read the story of the night before Christmas? I think that might be I think that might be fun after this. At any rate, the royal proclamation now calling all who want to return to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. You can do so starting August the 25th. Blogmaking continues to say our cast members, fairy godmothers, apprentices will transform guests ages 3 to 12 into some of their favorite Disney characters with hairstyling, makeup, costumes, and accessories, in addition to the reopening ushers in, even more options to choose from, including a new hair accessory, especially designed for textured hair, and new costumes featuring some of Disney's newest heroes and heroines coming later this year. Located in the heart of Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Park, the reopening of these two iconic locations will join the slate of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutiques aboard Disney Cruise Line, including the newest edition at sea on the Disney Wish. And stay tuned for more details about Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique locations at Disney's Grand Californian Resort and Spa and Disney Springs, which will reopen at a later date. So for those of you wondering about whether or not these auxiliary locations at the hotel and Disney Springs were going to open up, a later date, so they are coming. Have you ever, by chance, taken part in the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique? Do you happen to have a little one that you took on in, whether they are a knight in training, a prince want-to-be, or perhaps a princess that just needed a little bit more pixie dust? Is this an environment that you have been to? We duck our head in during every Disneyland update to see if anything has changed. And I got to tell you, the Disneyland version inside Fantasyland, that confine is small. Those are some tight confines and very much an environment that I understand why they've waited so long to bring this back. It is close contact to the nth degree. For a while, when I used to oversee entertainment and imaging in the Disneyland Resort, one of my favorite things to do was to be a part of what the photographers did in the very back room behind everything in the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If you didn't buy a photo package, you may not even be aware that it existed back there because it's kind of tucked out of the way. But basically, there was a tiny photo studio at the time inside the boutique that allowed for your little pumpkin being turned into a princess to take photos on a carriage and have just this beautiful photo session. And there was always something incredibly enchanting and just heartwarming about watching these tiny princesses come in, and sometimes, their brothers dressed up as knights or princes, and they would all have these photo shoots, and you could tell how important it was to them. You could tell how important it was to these children to have this moment and to feel royal and to feel like their dream had been realized. And there was something extra magical about being a part of that. Certainly, it was an environment that I treasured, not only overseeing and leading, but also being able to contribute to. And then one of the great things about that space is we leveled up and we grew. And now the photo studio for those photo shoots for little princesses and beyond happened to be over by the Royal Theater. So they moved on into the shop right next door to the Royal Theater. And there's a much bigger space and even more props to work with in that capacity. And I'll also tell you that the folks that work taking those photos and being responsible for those sessions, they adore that job. They adore that position. Some fought to be in that spot just because it meant so much to them, and you could tell how much it meant to the parents too, as they stood by and watched their little princesses pose away for what was truly a spectacular royal occasion. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique returning to us, Disneyland and Walt Disney World, August the 25th. By the way, the Brightline Train coming to Walt Disney World, well, this was one of the things we had heard not too long ago as being one of the sole reasons why they got rid of the Disney's Magical Express, right? Like, we had heard that because there was going to be a train that was going to connect Orlando International Airport to Disney Springs. Well, that doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore. In fact, Orlando Weekly reports that the Walt Disney Company has pulled out of its plans to facilitate the extension of a Sunrail Brightline train line from Orlando International Airport that would connect to Disney Springs and on to Tampa. Disney joined in the ambitious rail project at a time that the route plan included a possible stop at Disney Springs, with the rail line crossing Walt Disney World Resort property. That Disney Springs stop and routing has been removed from the most recent plans for the project. A Disney spokesperson said as many people who are involved in this project are aware, the new route configuration does not support a Disney Springs station, and as a result, we don't anticipate being a part of this project. The new plan routes the train through the tourist corridor along International Drive, bypassing the resort. When Disney joined the project, the plan called for a route that followed State Road 417 and entered Disney property. The new route is expected to include a stop near Disney on I Drive without crossing over into the resort. Other Brightline projects are nearly finished. The rail company reports that its line between West Palm Beach and Orlando is 80% complete and expected to open next year. Don't get me started on high-speed trains in California. We've been told for decades that was coming, and that never happened. Bond after bond, and check after check were cashed, and that we never saw the train we were supposed to get. One of the most incredible things about the Brightline expansion is I remember hearing about it, and like within 6 months, headed out to Disney World, was coming out of the airport and saw the station had just been built. This gigantic mega station had been built right outside the airport. And I even asked my driver, I was like, is that the train station? And he said, yeah. And I was like, is that fully built? He goes, yeah, it's ready to go for, whenever they end up connecting. Like, they managed to do that this quick. And it's just incredible to hear that they basically are connecting the whole state of Florida lickety split with this Brightline expansion. So to hear that the train is going to be stopping nearby, I guess that's reassuring to a certain degree. It's going to be stopping in the tourist area, but it's not giving specifics as to where that will be. So when it says nearby, keep in mind, there aren't sidewalks in half the places around the resort spaces, right? There aren't sidewalks nearby in a lot of these sort of hotel districts. So where that ends up landing is going to be very important as to whether or not it's going to be all that beneficial for Walt Disney World and being able to take the train in from Orlando International Airport. I know that was a real goal for everybody that was kind of like banking on the fact that Disney's Magical Express was going away. That was a goal of everybody's, was like, okay, if I can just get to the Brightline train, it'll be okay. I don't have to worry about my transportation. I don't have to pay, up front, because remember, Magical Express was free. So, I won't have to pay nearly as much for ground transportation. It'll be a great fast connector. I won't have to wait very long. And then that just goes away. So, unfortunately, not Disney Springs, no station there, but it will be nearby. We'll keep our eye on the story for you and let you know what exactly happens when it comes to the Brightline expansion and exactly where it ends up, because I am just as curious as you are when it comes to this sucker. So, hopefully it will be close. All right, my friends, you stick around. There is some aggression out there when it comes to Walt Disney World vacation planning, and there's a bit of a police report to prove it. Yeah, got all the details for you. That is coming up next here on Kingdom Reports Disney News Talk Live.
Hi, happy birthday.
Disney News Talk Live. Again, thanks so much for being a part of this evening broadcast. If you're listening on demand after the fact, we want to appreciate you too for taking time out of your day to listen to the broadcast and get caught up on all the latest Disney news that's going on. Yes, Bob Chapek has been named CEO for the next 3 years by the board of directors. We recently asked you, as part of our Kingdom Report polling on the YouTube community page here at the Kingdom Report on YouTube, your view of the Walt Disney Company since 2019. And we said, is your view of Disney more or less favorable today than it was in 2019? 81% of you said you have a less favorable view of the Walt Disney Company today than you did in 2019. 6% of you said more favorable. 13% said about the same. But very telling, to say the least. Not only do we have dramatic reactions to Bob Chapek being named CEO for another 3 years, but before this guy took over, it looks like there was a significant percentage of people that had a much more favorable view of the company than they do now. We continue on with our stories now, and did you hear? There is some real tense situations going on at Walt Disney World when it comes to vacation planning. Yep. In fact, there's a story that's attached to a police report that tells us exactly what happened. PennLive.com reports a woman was supposedly so stressed out about her Disney vacation, she slapped her husband. A 31-year-old by the name of Asia Curry of Westchester, Illinois, began arguing with her husband of 6 years in the parking lot of Animal Kingdom earlier this month. Her husband later told the Orange County Sheriff's Department that they were butting heads, quote, about marital issues related to the stress of their Disney vacation, close quote. This stress culminated into a slap that occurred not only in front of the couple's 2 children who were sitting in their car as the argument unfolded, but also in front of a deputy on duty. Ooh. Quote, Asia proceeded to curse and scream at him, reads the official sheriff's arrest report. Her husband walked away from Asia in an attempt to end the argument. Asia continued to follow him, spitting at him as he walked away in the direction of my patrol. While walking up to the patrol car, Asia then slapped him with an open hand in the back of his head. International Business Times continues to report how Curry maintained her husband deserved the slap while talking to officers later. Although her husband wasn't injured and didn't want to press charges against her, she was still arrested and jailed. Curry's arraignment is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, August 17th. The sheriff's report additionally notes that Disney trespassed her from all Walt Disney property as a result of her actions. Again, thank you, PennLive.com, for that story. Wow. So, look, I've been stressed out over vacation planning. I've been stressed out at Disney World, especially during the more peak times of year. But I've never taken it to a physical level. You know, first of all, control yourself. Have some decency and some personal responsibility and control yourself. And number two, that you slapped, first of all, you're slapping your husband. Second of all, you're doing this in front of your children at Disney World. The optics of that alone is so troubling to me. That alone is so dark. I'm very disappointed to hear that this happened in front of children, let alone happened at all. But just that it happened in front of this person's own kids. You invested all this money to go to Disney World, and I get it. It's a fortune. I get it. Yeah, I think some people don't realize what they're signing up for. It's a headache sometimes, right? Like you need a master's degree in vacation planning just to be good at managing Disney World now. Like I do not for any reason think that this is excusable, but I do think that it's understandable to be super stressed out on a Disney vacation, in particular at Walt Disney World, right? But to do this to your husband, in front of your children, after a day at a Disney theme park, I mean, mom of the year, right? It's so sad to hear this. I can't imagine what that did to the kids, too. I can't imagine what the kids must be thinking, and imagine how you view your mother after that. And yeah, can I just say I'm glad that this happened in front of the sheriff's deputy too. I mean, just coincidentally, they happened to be there at the front of the park and saw it. I'm glad that they saw it, and I'm glad that there was sort of this instant karma, this instant justice that happened of, I don't care if this is your husband or not. You don't do this to a person. You don't do this because you're stressed out about a Disney vacation. Perhaps you shouldn't have gone, right? Perhaps you shouldn't be there if you can't handle this. My gosh. Whew. Gringo in Mexico saying, hi from Mexico. Hey, Gringo in Mexico. Thanks for joining us tonight. Trisha's saying, hello from overheated Arizona. You know, here in the bastion of the backyard of Disneyland, it is also, I think today was the hottest day that it will be all week. So we peaked out at 94 degrees, 95 degrees, something like that. I know pales in comparison, Trisha, as to what you might experience in Arizona. My brother happens to live in Arizona. I have visited many times in summer. Can I tell you, now that I've done it several times, I will not be visiting during summer again. I just choose not to. It's kind of like I don't tend to go to Disney World between like late June and late September most of the time, unless I want to get a great deal and I know what I'm going to have to put up with, and deal with the potential hurricanes and disgusting weather. Sometimes I'll go in September just because it's usually the cheapest time of the year, but that's if I'm desperate and I can't get a trip in any other time. However, I'd like to point out, Trisha, that when I do that, I don't show up, show my stress, and then slap my wife. So Although apparently there's precedent for that now. So I guess it's acceptable. But you'll go to jail. Happily Ever Yeti says, "Hi there, Kingdom Report. First time here, just subscribed. Happily, can we just come together as a family and celebrate the heck out of you for having just subscribed? Thank you. Sincerely, it means so much. And we're closing in now. We just jumped over the 19,000 mark here not too long ago. And I know that this sounds like something people on YouTube say, because I feel like I've heard creators say this before. We've never done this to grow a subscriber base. Certainly, we do it for an audience. We do it for the sake of providing value to people, in the Disney ether, because we know that there are folks out there that could really benefit from our information and from the things that we have to share. However, we do not keep sort of a laser eye on subscriber numbers. It's not something that we pay a lot of attention to, because I think we've all always believed that what we do adds value to people that enjoy Disney, right? It adds value to their lives. And so we're happy doing it. We're pleased doing it. So we don't live and die by the numbers, because I feel like there are a lot of like people out there that rate all their success based on the numbers. And in terms of subscriptions and stuff like that, if people aren't watching in general, they're not going to subscribe. So if people are watching, those numbers are very important, right? Because then you see like, okay, more people are watching videos than are subscribed, and that's fine as long as folks are seeing it, as long as it's getting to them, as long as folks are, seeing it referred on over and it's hitting the algorithm right, because, YouTube is a beast like that. So as long as folks are able to access it and get to it, that's awesome. But to know that you subscribed, you took the extra step so that you are always connected to what we're doing and that you're updated anytime that happens, it does mean an awful lot. And I can't tell you how grateful we all are for the opportunity to provide you with some trusted theme park perspective and to be able to connect you to more of what makes you happy. Gringo says, she slapped him with a Mickey hand on. That would be, in my mind, that's what I saw too. It's a giant Mickey glove, just slapping him across the back of the head. Tinkershell says, uh-oh, another Amber Heard. Oh, there's a toxic name, huh? Yeah, careful there. Happily saying, I can't. People are losing their minds. Yeah, it seems like more and more. Trisha's saying, wow, some people. Amen. And Tinker's saying, she might do this regularly, unfortunately. Yeah, right. She, based on how the report wrote this, it certainly sounds like she was quite comfortable doing that. So Ray says, they'll never vacation at Disney again. I don't think so. Especially, if her husband is in his right mind. If she 5 years down the line says, we should take the kids back to Disney World, he should say, yeah, you should take them to Disney World, because I won't be a part of that. Maybe take your mom or your sister, go with somebody else. But we all remember what happened the last time. Bless him for being, I guess, the bigger person in all of this and not pressing charges. And I get it. You have to go home to her. You have to go home to the person that assaulted you. So pressing charges probably wouldn't work out too well if you are looking to maintain that marriage. But I can't imagine that there's going to be a vacation in their future at Disney that will work out very well. Melissa's saying, wow, people, calm down, especially in front of your kids. Exactly. No level of rage could ever make me do something as it's such a I can't imagine doing something like that in front of a loved one, period. Kids are like even in a more sensitive category to me. I can't imagine doing that in front of a loved one. No matter how agitated I am, no matter how angry I am at a relative or somebody, if my wife treated me that way, my wife freaked out on me, got me to a point where I felt the need to get physical over a Disney vacation. Are you kidding me? Get a grip. Don't be ridiculous. Get a grip. Stop the madness, right? Trisha's saying, planning a first time trip to Walt Disney World for 2024. Cannot wait. Trisha, that's awesome. In just a couple of days here, we have a Walt Disney World first-timer tip video coming out. So something that we have clipped from our live show and will be sharing on the main channel. So keep your eyes peeled for a first-time trip tip video for Walt Disney World that is coming up. Wishing you all the magic on your 2024 vacation. I hope that it ends up being exactly what you were looking for. And I don't know if you've planned out this far yet, but when are you going in terms of month, in terms of season? I would love to know. Billy said, welcome to the Kingdom family. That's right. Yes. No, thank you, Billy, for extending the warm arms of the Kingdom family on out, saying, come on aboard, happily ever Yeti. Come on aboard. Thank you for subscribing. Yes, thank you, Billy, for extending the warmth. And Nick says, Disney can be stressful and hot, so I can sympathize, although I don't condone the behavior. Yeah, exactly, right? Believe me, I have been miserable at Disney World before. Disneyland too. But, Disney World, the weather really does mess with your mind. It really does, especially if you're not used to it. Being a California boy my whole life, every time I go to Florida, if it's during those hot, sticky months, it messes with you. It adds an extra layer of agitation. So, I understand being stressed out and being super hot and feeling gross. I get that. I sympathize with it too. But yeah, that behavior cannot be condoned, cannot be something that we say, oh yeah, she was just upset. A little bit more than upset, that's for sure. And Trish responding by saying, I will be watching that when it comes out, looking for all the tips I can get. June the 5th through the 14th, 2024. Okay, so you're going early June. You might luck out. It might not be too disgusting yet. Keep in mind, usually June on into the end of September, just the beginning of October, usually some of the hottest months. I know that the thunderstorms can be hit and miss in June, depending on when you're going and the patterns. Earlier June is always better since you're getting that tail end of May and sort of that late springtime. I have gone the first week of June, so specifically going right into your dates. It is muggy, okay? It is warm. However, it's not overbearing like, say, July is. So July, it zapped me and nearly killed me during my trip in July one year. And I said, I will never come back in July. But June, I managed. Make sure, just a tip off the top, make sure that you stagger out if you're going to be doing Disney World dining on site. Make sure that you use that to essentially take, big long breaks in air conditioning. So stagger out your dining throughout the day so that when you get to the heat of the day, more of your 1:30, 2:30, 3:30 area, try and have a late lunch in the hottest point of the day. That will allow so many more benefits for your mental clarity, and you won't go slapping a significant other if you do that too. I think so you might luck out. It might it might work out for you. And Tinker is saying, too disgusting yet. Yeah, I know it's tough. Gringo saying, I remember as a kid going to Walt Disney World and experiencing humidity for the first time. Yeah, right. And being a Californian, I felt the same way. I was like, what is this? I feel like I'm in a bowl of soup. Like, why? How come I left my hotel room? I took a shower. I left my hotel room. I feel like I need another shower. Yeah, it's like this radical experience when you've never been exposed to it before. So I certainly understand how you feel. All right, my friends. Well, that about wraps things up for us. Just wanted to jump on tonight and talk about Bob Chapek becoming king of Disney for the next 3 years and retaining his title as the heavyweight CEO of Disney World. Yes, he is most certainly keeping that crown, and the board is behind him, at least on paper, as they make public declarations on paper publicly. Now we know for sure they back him up all the way. It is something that, we'll see what happens, right? We will see how this all unfolds and how we as a consumer base, how we are treated moving forward, because things just continue to get more and more dicey, it feels. So I am looking forward to seeing what happens next, and hopefully this guy alters course a little bit and realizes the vast responsibility he has to uphold the legacy and traditions of Walt Disney himself. Before we skip on out, just wanted to share with you this little ditty.
Here goes something. Sharon, airbags, please.
The weapon facility is not equipped with airbags.
Okay.
Still one of my favorite clips. Spider-Man goes boom. Yeah, still one of my favorite things to see is that clip, and realizing that they thought ahead, knowing that something like that was probably going to happen, that the Stuntronic was going to fail, and so they had audio prepared for it. I think that is so awesome. At any rate, as always, make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you never miss a thing. And if you haven't done so, a thumbs up on this video means an awful lot. Again, if you're watching on demand after the fact, after the live broadcast, we do encourage you to comment on all the topics that we have covered here today in our comment section. We keep our eye on that, and we do respond as much as we possibly can. This is just as much for you as it has been for our live chatters. So my friends who have been on live, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to chat and to share your thoughts as to what's going on in the Disney world, mainly because it has been a wild day full of surprises. And maybe in the near future, we will be surprised with something a little bit more pleasant from the Disney executive suite, and perhaps have somebody slap some sense. Maybe Asia, what was her name? Asia Cummings. Maybe we will have her, Asia Curry. Maybe we can send her to slap a little sense into Bob Chapek. Yeah, I mean, I don't condone physical violence, but metaphorically, slap a little sense into the guy. Come on, Asia Curry. Maybe we should, hear me out, perhaps a GoFundMe to fly Asia out to Burbank to meet with Bob Chapek and metaphorically slap some sense into him. Share her stressful story. Maybe it'll be a breakthrough. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Things to think about. Possibly it could happen. At any rate, it's been great being a part of your evening, my friends. As always, the legacy of Walt Disney lives on because of people like you and me. We will see you next time for another edition of Disney News Talk Live. Thanks for hanging out.
Looking for some digital magic to help you through your week? The Kingdom Report is here for you, covering the latest Disneyland and Disney World news, experiences, and events. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Kingdom Report Live so you never miss an update. And drop a subscribe on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel for new videos every week. Don't miss out. Join this growing community of theme park fans as we aim to connect you to more of what makes you happy. For more information, visit KingdomReportLive.com. And now, back to the magic.